Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. A very important message he gave in the previous topic. Judge not others. Don't get into this judgmental attitude. Because when you look at your mistakes, you accept it. You look at others' mistake, you start judging them. With reference to your mistakes, you accept. With reference to others' mistake, you judge. Now, what is wrong in judgment? You say, okay, why should I not judge? And does judgment means that I should not assess, I should not even attempt to understand what the other person is doing? What does that mean? That's not what is referred. You have to assess people around you. You have to assess what you are living with. You are living in a particular society. You have to assess that society. You are living in a particular country. You need to assess that country. You are living in a particular environment. You have to make an assessment of that environment. Nothing wrong. In fact, you must do it. You better do it. But that doesn't mean you can afford to pass on judgment. Don't get into this judgmental attitude. Now, what is the difference between assessment and judgment? When I judge you, what I am doing is I am wanting to punish you for the mistake. First of all, I recognize something as a mistake, something I decide as a mistake. On what basis I decide that as a mistake? To what intensity I will feel that you have committed a mistake? Certain things that we say as error, certain things we call as mistake, certain things we call as slip, certain things we call as blunder, certain things we call as crime. It's all same thing, no? All these words, we use different words. All that is only what? Depending on the intensity. At what stage, what defines that, on what basis I feel, that's what we saw in the last class. Now, I have certain preconceived notions. I have a pattern, I have an understanding of life means this is what right, this is what is wrong. Now, based on that, I keep an assessment of you. I keep judging you. Therefore, when I analyze your actions, keeping my backdrop as a reference point, that is called judgment. When I analyze your actions, taking into consideration your background, from where you come, that is called assessment. With reference to me, I assess, I analyze your action. That is called judgment. Now, with reference to me means what is it that I'm going to keep as a reference point? The reference point is always my desires. So depending upon the intensity of my desires, my analysis will be, my conclusions will be, and based on that, I will be judging you Based on that, I will be penalizing you, punishing you, wanting to punish you at least. If not at the action level, at least at the thought level. That's all. Most of the time, we punish people at the thought level, not action level. Physically, we can't, punish people. So what do we do? Mentally, we do it. You see, physically, I can't torture you. Physically, I can't hit you. So what do I do mentally? I start wishing. If not me doing it, I will want God to do it for you. God will punish you. You see that? Now I can't do that. If I do, I will look bad. If the same thing is done by God, that will be looking appropriate. That becomes righteous, isn't it? The consequence of judgment is always punishment. Consequence of assessment is acceptance, forgiveness. Right? That's the difference. When he says judgment, don't judge others, judge not others. A very, very important message to know. To what extent I will feel that it is directly connected to the value that I have placed, the black market value that I have placed, which is called desire, which is called attachment. Say, for example, with so much of difficulty, I work hard and I get a Apple Watch. Okay. Or a fantastic carpet. I put a carpet. When I have a carpet in my house, beautiful velvet carpet, have so fluffy, so comforting for the feet. One fellow walks with the dirty feet. Right. Now what will I do? Suppose if I have not really put a great value for the carpet, let's say, then if a person walks with the same dirty feet, at that time, how I see that same situation? Dirty feet is same, the carpet is same. What do you do when you when you check into a hotel and you spill coffee on that carpet in the hotel? Hotel carpet, you spill coffee. What do you do? If you are highly refined, you will call the housekeeping department and tell them, come and clean. And they'll bring some, carpet shampoo and all those things and then clean and go. That's all. The dirt is removed. That's it. What happens to you? Now imagine the same thing is done at your home. Particularly, you have slogged to get that carpet. You pounce on that person, isn't it? Now that is what he is saying here. Why is it so prevalent today? Why is it that from where we are getting this mentality of judgment? The judgment mentality you cannot escape from unless you have the courage to drop the black market value that you have given to your possessions, your things. So long as you are carrying that value, that intensity of that value, that same when you have, when someone is doing some action which is contrary or damaging which is not in acceptance, not in accordance with the standards of yours, then you would want to punish that person. That attitude is called judgment. He says, don't get into this judgment. That attitude will create a lot of frustration in you. At no point of time you can say that I am wrong. You will immediately justify saying, Ishwaran, isn't it sensible thing to do is what? Clean your feet and walk, right? You're not supposed to walk on a dirty carpet, carpet which is, on a, and dirty the carpet. That's not. You can never understand where I am wrong in that. What is wrong? See, after all, isn't it correct for me to expect him to clean his feet and come in? How can he just walk in with the dirty? That is why we have kept the towel outside. Use the towel that foot mat is there. Clean your feet and then come in. Where I am wrong in this? Introversion means you look into where you have gone wrong. Where have you gone wrong? By placing that black market value to that carpet, you have created the potential for that frustration and judgment and punishment. Wanting to punish. It's not punishment. That you wanting to punish. That's all. It's not that you can punish everyone. Imagine your boss walks in. Now you can't punish him. Or what can you say? He'll say, oh my God, I made a mistake. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll say, oh, it's okay. We'll clean it. All that you will say externally. Internally, what are you talking? You Buddhu, if I were to do the same thing in your house, what will you do? All that you will say. But externally, you behave one way. We are not talking about that external behavior. We are talking about that internal state, that mentality. From where you get it. He says, drop that. That doesn't mean you should not make any assessment of people around you. That environment you are in, the government, the neighbor, your wife. That doesn't mean you have to start making assessment of everyone. I have to make an assessment of that fellow who is sitting next to me in the flight. Okay, one seat away. Now you can't have next and all. There's no chance. No. So, social distancing. What difference does it make? He is going to be there next to you for 45 minutes. Right. Now, there's no necessity for you to know what is his nature, what type of that person, what type this. All that is not necessary for you to make an assessment. And of all the things, the most complex is assessing a human. Other things are very easy to assess because they have a pattern, and that pattern is standard for all. All dogs behave same way. All lions behave same way. All hyenas behave same way. All zebras behave same way. Buffaloes behave same way. They all have a common pattern. Therefore, the moment you understand one buffalo, you have understood all the buffaloes. You understand a dog, you have understood all the dogs. You understand one lion, you have understood all the lions in the world. But when it comes to human, you understand one, you understand one. That's all. Why? Because there is no common nature. Humans were living based on individualistic nature. There is no collective nature for human. For other beings, it's collective. All potato, same. All tomato, same. Recently, someone told me tomato is not a vegetable; it's a fruit. It seems. I said that why they are selling in the vegetable shop? You see, all the shops you go, tomatoes are kept in the vegetable side, not in the fruit side. Understand a tomato, you understand all tomatoes. That's all. You understand potato, potato. You understand onion, onion. All onions are same. One garlic, you understand all garlic. Plant. Animals also, same. Why? Because they are governed by collective nature. When it comes to human, there is no collective nature. That is why relationship with reference to a human is more difficult, because you have to keep making that assessment and reassessment and reassessment. Reassessments are required. It's strenuous. The current humanity doesn't have that much of intellectual penetration to go through that capacity to do it. That is why people have started having pets in the house. Why? Because you have lost the capacity to relate to a fellow human. It is strenuous. It is stressful. Therefore, we want a vent. We want a relaxation. Therefore, what do? We bring a pet into the house and start relating to the pet, which becomes a stress buster for us. Why can't you bring a fellow being and call a pet? That is not possible. Why? Because there is no understanding. Whereas with these things, it's easier. But you have to make that effort to assess. Assessment is understanding that individual's behavior from the backdrop of his, no connection to my preconceptions, my preconceived notions of right and wrong, my background. I have been brought up from my childhood in a vegetarian environment. Therefore, today I am a vegetarian. Another person is being brought up in the background of a non-vegetarian. Therefore, he is a non-vegetarian. That's all. There is nothing great about being a vegetarian. There is nothing inferior being a non-vegetarian. That doesn't mean non-vegetarian is superior. There is no such thing. There is no connection. What? I have my backdrop, he has his backdrop. I have my tongue, he has his tongue. An Italian can never understand the taste of a curd rice. Curd rice, he can't, of course, if you put that into his mouth, his tongue can register the taste of it, but he can't relish it. You see, now we can relish pizza. You give him everyday pizza for five days, 10 days, 1 month. Then what happens? You like bread? No. Keep giving bread every day. A toast. All that you have to do is what? Just have a toast and an orange juice. Keep giving it every day. What happens to it? For a South Indian, you give idli. He can survive on idli. Years together, he will survive on idli. Years together, he can survive on sambar. You see, you give him sambar, rice, and curd, he can live rest of his life in that. There's no problem for him. Nothing great about it. All that it means is his backdrop. When this fellow goes all the way from here to New York, in New York he will go in search of Sarvana Bhavan Hotel. His MTR is there in New York. Now, why will you have, when you go to New York, you eat. One day you can have that New York pizza and say, superb, very different from all other pizzas in the world. That's very different. Correct. Very good. Have. Keep giving him that every day. He can't. That is what I meant. He can't enjoy that taste. He can't live in that. Now, I have my background of understanding. He has his background of understanding. Now, in this, on what basis am I to pass a judgment on that? Therefore, what do we do? Therefore, what is to be done? Is there's nothing, man. There is so much good in the worst of us, and there is so much bad in the best of us. That's why you see in Ramayana, Valmiki describes the great qualities of Ravana. Also, Ramayana tells how Rama was hard-hearted fellow. Now, most of you may not know these things. How hard-hearted he is. Heartless. Heartless isn't you, at maximum you will say what? He killed Vali, he sent Sita. That's all local action. That's not real. The real hard-hearted Rama, we can't even digest actually. How can he do such a thing? One group of Brahmins came and filed a complaint against one man, an outcast. When we were doing yajna, doing the chanting, this man was standing there and listening to it. They filed a complaint. Oh, catch that fellow. They caught him. They asked, did you do that? He said, yes. It was so nice to hear. So I heard. Okay. What is the punishment for that? Pour molten iron into his ears. Valmiki records this. Now, how will you explain that? Saulabhyam is the quality of Rama, we say one hand. The other hand, we say this. Now, how are we to understand that? So much in the worst of us. In the worst of us, there are so much good. And what is there to talk about the rest of us? What is there to talk, man? So what is to be done? Shut up. Don't look at others. Then what are you supposed to do? Look within. Look within and start that inquiry. This is the message. Now, when you start looking within and saying, okay, sir, that I'm going to start looking within, I have to look within, look within, look within. We have no clue in terms of how to go about internally and progress in that self-inquiry. So what is to be done? Now that we have understood, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to do this self-inquiry. Now I am supposed to do the self-inquiry and I have to start my process of thinking. Now what is to be done? How am I to do it? And he gives a practical exercise. He says, you can start from here, starting point. So right now, introduction. So far, it is introduction. Now he says, start the work. From where to begin? The starting point of all this, he says, is the spiritual practice. It is a subjective one. There is no objective, there is no collective. You can't have a collective spiritual effort. It is purely subjective. Religion is a subjective phenomenon. It's not objective. It's not collective. It is not social. You see, now today we think religion is social. It's not a social phenomenon. It is a misnomer. It is personal phenomenon. It is individualistic. It is subjective one. Now, what are you meaning? What subjective means? You have to go inside you. It is an inner journey where you can do all alone. You have to do that only by yourself. It is subjective. You must go introvert and discover the self within you. What you have to do? Go introvert and discover the self within you. But our problem is what? We have never traveled in that direction. Since we have never done that, we will definitely require some assistance, at least in the initial stages, isn't it? Something you have never done in your life, if we say you have to do that, you'll ask, sir, how that has to be done? It's all self-explanatory. There is no problem at all, actually. It's all self-explanatory. But we cannot understand it. Even though with every gadget they send a manual, you read that manual. How many of you have read the complete manual book for all the gadgets that you have been using in the house? At least have you read the warranty card fully? But then you are using the gadgets. How did you come to know about it? How you started using it? You got a mobile phone. You wanted to know how to install this Google Pay. What do? You call your grandchild, isn't it? You call that fellow. Hey, somebody is saying, Google Pay. What is that? He says, it's very simple. Just press here, check, till you do. That's all. You'll ask for new payment. These are all hint I'm giving you. Okay. How you have to pay? I will ask, what is that? This is easier for you than to go into the app, Google Pay app, and read the entire procedure. They have given it very clearly there. You read that, it is very simple. You can understand. Easily it is understandable. Same way, we have this new thing. You download an app. They will ask for, there is a terms and conditions. Agree, disagree. Suppose if I disagree, can I use that? I have never understood that. No logic. See, I download an app and he gives certain terms. I say, no, I am not in agreement with all these terms, man. So these things you delete. With that, I will use that app. He says what? No, you have to agree to, unless you say agree, that app will not work. Then what is the meaning of this agreement, disagreement? There is no option at all, actually speaking. You want to use, you better agree. That's all it is. But do you read the whole thing? Why? Even if you attempt to read the whole thing, even an average graduate cannot understand what is written there. You need to consult a lawyer. you need a lawyer's interpretation to explain to you the terms and conditions there. Because it's all written in English only, but still we can't understand. Manual given to us which are easy, we don't. And there are certain times the terms, conditions, and all those things are so in nature where we need an interpreter. So for most of us, we can't do it all by ourselves. You can't read it, you can't understand it all by. Call the child and ask him how to use this Google Pay. That's much more simpler for us. You see. So he says, you may seek guidance from a spiritual master. But then there is a problem. Yes. Now, this practical exercise, these 2 paragraphs you have to read line by line. Point by point, you have to go. Only then you get the gist of what is being said. Judge not others. That does mean you should not make assessment. You have to make an assessment, all that you keep in the background. That's why I gave that introduction. Okay. Now he says, if you have to go internal, you can't do it all by yourself. You do require assistance. In the worldly things itself, we require assistance. Means in the spiritual arena where we have never tread that path, we can't say, do it all by yourself. Anyway, it is subjective, no. Do it all by yourself, which is not a realistic one. It is not possible for everyone to do it. Everyone cannot be doing something like that. There are very few who can do it. There are people who read. Before they start using the gadget, they read the entire manual, understand that manual, only then they will switch it on. Till then, they will not switch on. Now, we don't belong to that category. What we belong to the category where we immediately call for assistance and get it done. That's quicker for us. So he says, you may seek guidance from a spiritual master. Then comes the problem. But take up his preaching on its own merits. Do not allow the life and personality of the Guru to interfere with his teachings. His life and teaching must be treated separately. Do not mix them up. This is where it becomes a problem for us. The initial inspiration for us to get into spiritual path always comes from external. The triggering point is always external. And we take that inspiration, and then what we have to do, we have to go inside and start probing, for which we seek an assistance. We go back to that source. And that's where the problem comes. The teacher's personality and teaching. Why you should not? He gives a very simple reasoning. He says, to live an ideal life is one thing, and to be able to explain the way to live that life is quite another. See, to be able to live an ideal life is one thing. That can be done. But to be able to explain to others, that is very different thing. Never mix up the teacher and the teaching. Leave the teacher alone. Leave the master. The charm, the blunder, people commit the grave blunder of mixing the personality of the teacher with his teaching. They transfer the personal charm of God without merit to his teaching and become enslaved by him. You see, this is the blunder we make. The, they transfer the personal charm. How do you mix up? You mix up the teacher and the teaching. How? What is mixing up? You transfer the charm of that personality to the teaching and start following the teaching. And what is so interesting is this. It says they transfer the personal charm of God without merit. The personal charm that you see in the teacher, they don't deserve it, actually speaking. They don't deserve that charm. That's what our Guru says. This Marathi saint, in his Abhang, he says that. He's this Jnaneshwar's Guru. He says, when you go into this, when you associate yourself with the Guru, one thing happens, he says, straight away. That is, you will start receiving that respect. The world will start respecting you. You will get respect, which you don't deserve. You associate with the master, what you get? He says two things he says. First one is very interesting. He says, 3 meals a day guaranteed. Associate with the Guru, your food is taken care of. You don't have to worry about food in life. You will be fed. There will be enough food for people to have. So all that you have to do is what? You want to eat, go to an ashram. Become a disciple of any guru for that matter. Doesn't make a difference. You will be getting enough food. You will get food. Second one you get is you will get respect. You will get food and you will get respect. Both you get without deserving it, he says. This his Guru was telling to Jnaneshwar, not to you and me. If he says that to Jnaneshwar, who himself is a great saint. Okay. What about our state? Forget it. Is you don't deserve it. You get things without deserving. Says. Why? It gets transferred. The association with master creates something in the student, and he starts doing things in a particular way. As a result, what happens? People will start respecting him. When he starts receiving that respect from the world, now when he is saying food, don't take it literally food, meaning material. You will be taken care of material. Enough will be there for you. You will be provided with enough things once you go to a spiritual master, and world will give you that with respect. With respect that is given. With respect that is given, you go to the master, and then what happens? Why they respect you? What creates that respect? And the world will start treating you as the master. So there is a guru, you associate with him, you have not grown yet, you have just enrolled. You just enroll there, like in your house, at your homes, people will be expecting you to be spiritual by now, isn't it? They will expect you to behave like a saint now. Why? Because you are attending classes now. Now imagine they expecting you to be, suppose if I come, what will be the case? And that is what he is referring here. Says, why this reference is giving us, invariably, when you receive this spiritual knowledge, this spiritual knowledge has a peculiar nature, which is not there with reference to other things. You see, this uniqueness only this knowledge has. In all other knowledges, when you learn, you would not get that natural urge to share it with people, to speak. Only with reference to this knowledge, the moment you receive, you would like to share it with everybody. Little you get, you would like to. Very unique. And with reference to these masters, there are two types of masters we see in the world. There are masters who are natural communicators, and there are masters who are non-communicators. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana, they are not natural communicators. There is nothing great and it's not superior, inferior and all. Remember, okay? I'm only saying there are two types. That's about it. Doesn't mean who is better. There's no such thing as who's better and all that here. There are two types of masters are there in the world. Now, between the two masters, and the other one, I'll give you the example also. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Ramana. You come to the other side, natural communicators. We have Ramatirtha, Vivekananda. They are so explicit. They are excellent communicators. They can communicate because communicators require something more. Something else is needed also along with that. But all four are equally masters only. There is no difference. Okay, it's not that Ramatirtha is any less to Ramana or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is not superior to Ramatirtha. There is no such thing. All of them are in the same plane only. In terms of their masterliness is the same thing. But then their personality type varies. Now, those who are communicators we prefer. We tend to get attracted more towards the communicators. Why? Because when they are communicating, we do get something. When they're communicating, we do receive something. There is some benefit we receive out of it, receive from them. So there is an attraction towards the masters who are communicators in nature. Right? Now, there is no natural attraction you have towards non-communicating masters. Unless otherwise somebody brainwashes you and takes you. You see, on your own you cannot. Because you cannot go to Ravana and sit. You can keep sitting there for how long? You can keep looking at him. Okay, you looked at him. You are so inspired. Okay, you are inspired. And then after that, what is going to happen? Like I say, you go to Ravana and tell him, I lost my wife. He'll say, whose wife? Uh, You can't even understand. And our stupidity is, more you don't understand that master, greater he will start appearing in your eyes. Isn't it? That communicating masters are little more relatable for most of us. Okay. Now go back to that point. This half-boiled, half-baked people who receive little bit of knowledge here and there develop a type of communication skill and start getting into communicating to the world. Start talking to the world. What will happen? There will be a tremendous attraction. You will get attracted. What is so attracting about them? If you see, initially, you may start with anything. Initially, the personality, the personal charm of the teacher may attract you. Look at his eyes. Like they say, Ramana. I tell them, what about Ramakrishna Paramahansa's eyes? Ramana's eyes are so powerful. What about Ramakrishna Paramahansa's eyes? He is not a realized master, is it? Is he not an avatar Purusha? But for us, Vivekananda's eyes will look far more attractive. What is it, sir? That's the features of the body. That's why we have one of the great teacher, Ashtavakra. In this Vedantic literature, this one, people, they say Ashtavakra Gita is one step above Bhagavad Gita in terms of content. In terms of this content, they say Ashtavakra Gita. There, that master is Ashtavakra. Vakra means bent. Ashta 8. We don't know his name. That master is known only as a man with 8 bent. Imagine a fellow with 8 bent. Will you get attracted towards his personality when you look at him? Whereas when you see a person with, that's why today we have to have a lot of makeup. We got to have a grooming personality. We have to have create that sort of an environment around us. That's why when we do this Gita lectures, auditorium people get confused. In Chaudhaya Hall, we had, first lecture when we organized in Chaudhaya Hall. Hall arrangement, they said, morning itself you have to come, so you can do this. So we went, we started cleaning. They did, and again we did once. It's all clean already, actually. And they didn't understand why we fellows are doing again. They said, no, we like to do it. So we are also doing. We did the cleaning and all those things, and then they laid the carpet. They put carpet is laid, and then we brought 2 tables from inside, kept it in the center, and we took one table and we placed the table on top and put a white sheet. And then we said, let's go. They said, the decoration la? They said, no decorations. I said, what, no decorations? The flowers and all that you can have this. No. And the backdrop, No. Uh, Color lighting and all that, nothing. Just plain lights. That's it. Have more light on the audience. And that's where the fellow got really annoyed. He said, what? He said, no, you're talking to people means you should know whether you are awake or sleeping. No, isn't it? Because that is why we tell people to keep the video on. Why? This is the reason. We have to know whether you are awake or sleeping. Because in Ramayana, one day suddenly this Lakshmana came and said, there's a report we got. There is a lady near that, Sarayu river sitting and crying profusely. And nobody could go near her and ask her because of her nature. We are not able to go. What to do? Rama said, bring her to the court. They brought her to the court. He said, I was living so happily. Right? Now you took this avatar as Rama. You came all the way and killed that fellow, Kumbhakarna. I am his Patni, Nidra Devi. I was happily living with him. Right? Now there is no place for me to go. Where am I to go? Rama said, don't worry. Wherever this Vedanta lecture happens, because Rama is a Vedantin, he is a student of Vasishtha. Wherever Vedanta classes happen, you will have enough place for you to go. So all Vedanta class, you can go and people will be there for you to occupy. You can live your life happily. Say. That's a boon Rama gave her. So he said, keep the lights more on the audience, less on the speaker. I said, what is this? No decoration, nothing. That's all. That's all. And then the fellow was telling me, sir, we have had this lectures, that lectures. The decoration took, they took 1 day in advance for the decoration to be done for the stage. And on the, aisles and this side, that side, the whole thing was looking very different. Now, this hall, you people are not doing anything like that. Why you have to do all those things, sir? That charm needs to be artificially created. You see, that artificial creation is needed for us to, that ambience needs to be created for us to get that focus. The central thing that creates maximum is the charm of the teacher, the teacher's personality. And that's where the problem is, he says. The problem is this. It is easy, relatively speaking, to understand the teaching than to understand the teacher. You see, it's easy to understand the teaching, but you can never understand the teacher. I'm talking about only the original master, not like the pseudo ones. Now, if you consider some pseudo master as a master and you fall for him, that's your fault. For that, you have to pay the price. Right? If you fall for an imitator, like there are people who do mimicry. They speak like Rajinikanth, they speak like Amitabh Bachchan, they speak like Shah Rukh Khan, all that they speak, Tendulkar. Suddenly they'll talk like Tendulkar, they'll do all that they will do. Right? Now, if you believe that fellow to be Rajinikanth, because he speaks like Rajinikanth, he dresses like Rajinikanth, he puts a makeup and stands like Rajinikanth, if you think him to be Rajinikanth, like they do in Tamil Nadu. I've seen that. During election time, For every election meeting, they'll bring, MGR will come. Suddenly MGR will appear on stage. We were wondering from where he came actually, because we have seen his death. You know, amazing it was to see. Hauser. What is it? That's not MGR. But if you believe him to be MGR, if you believe him to be that person, then whose mistake is that? So don't ask me about people immediately ask, sir, what about gurus who are all imitators? If you fall for an imitator, you pay the price. That is why he says, do not mix the personality of the teacher and the teaching. Suppose if it is a genuine guru, if it is a real master, what about it there? Then all the more it is important that you should not mix up. If it is a pseudo guru, don't mix up. You cannot mix up. Don't mix up. Right? His teaching and this one. What about if it is a genuine guru? What about him then? What do you say about him then? He says, even then, the rule doesn't change. The rule is keep the teacher separate, the personality of the teacher separate, and the teaching separate. Why you have to do that? Because you can understand the teaching. You can never understand the teacher. Remember this. It is not possible. You can never understand the teacher. Because teacher is living his life at a different plane, at a different equation. We live our life on a different plane with a different equation. With this, we can never make an assessment of him. Forget about judgment. You can't even make assessment of him. So what is to be done? He says, keep that personality of the teacher aside. Don't bring him at all. Pay attention only to the teaching. What is a different plane? Now we live our life like a railway track. Whereas a master lives life like a flowing river. We can't understand. I'm reminded of a Zen story. It seems a Zen master had visited a monastery, and the chief of that monastery got so interested. He was so inspired. He said, I'm so blessed that such a great master had visited our monastery. And he received him, welcomed him, and gave him dinner and all that. He had his dinner and they were about to sleep. In the night, it became very cold. They couldn't manage. The blankets were not enough. What to do? They're trying all this, didn't work. That Zen master got up, went inside, and brought one idol, Buddha idol, and burned it. He put it in the fire. And the heat came, and he was enjoying. Oh, wow. Now he felt, I am feeling warm. He's enjoying the warmth of the fire now. That monastery chief couldn't digest it. He said, hey, you are burning Buddha. He said, you're burning Buddha. He immediately, this Zen master, he took a stick and started playing with the fire inside. And I said, what are you doing now? He said, I'm searching for Buddha's bones, he said. He said, you're burning Buddha. No. When you burn a body, what you will find there? Bone should be there. No, he said, there's no bone. I couldn't see any bone of Buddha. That man couldn't take it. He chased him out of, monastery. He said, get out of the monastery first. And next day morning, he got even more heart attack. This man saw the milestone being kept, and he is muttering in front of that milestone the Buddhistic prayer and praying to the milestone. He said, what are you doing? Buddha, he says. How can you understand? Now, we can't start doing that. You don't try all that. Huh? Okay, this is what he meant. Imitator, you read the story. Now what will you do? You start burning everything, You can't do all that, please. You can't understand. What is he doing? Remember, we have a great weakness. That weakness is to mix up. Why? He lives in a different plane. Our life equations are all what? 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 minus 2 is 0. Isn't it? This is our equation, life. This man's equation of life is 2 plus 2 is what? 2. 2 minus 2 is what? 2. We'll say he doesn't know mathematics. We say 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 minus 2 is 0. I have 10 rupees with me. I give you 5 rupees. How much I will have? I am 5 rupees less now. Isn't it? I am poorer by 5 rupees. You go to this man, he lives a life where you have 10, you give 5, he says, you are rich by 5 now. We say, I am poorer by 5 now. He says, I am rich by 5 now. Now, how can you understand him? Is there any possibility to understand him? Now, whenever we don't understand something, immediately we start worshipping them. That's all. You see, whenever we don't understand somebody, that's why sometimes, some classes I talk some nonsense. After the class, I myself wonder, today has become little more. You see, and people send, Anitna, more messages I get. Oh, today's class was superb. Can I have the recording of the class? Can I have the recording of the class? Can I have the recording of the class? Why? If you don't understand, that is the way to become a philosopher. A great philosophy and a philosophy. Philosophy means nobody should understand. A great philosophy means even the speaker should not understand. That's a great philosophy. Beautiful. Forget about the teacher. We want life in one dimension. We live life in 2-dimension aspect. We don't understand. He is living life in 3-dimension, 4-dimension. We understand life in 2-dimension. 3rd dimension we never understand because it's the behind, the backside, isn't it? I suppose you all know that. You see only 2 dimensions actually. You don't see the 3rd dimension. And he is living in the 4th dimension. Theory only. You see, there's no practical perception of 4th dimension. From 3rd dimension itself, it becomes theory for us, not experience. It becomes where, how? He is living in a different dimension. His dimension of life is it's flowing, flowing. River is constantly flowing. That means it is changing, conflicting, contradicting. His personality is carries so much of contradiction. You cannot digest those contradictions. It is not possible for you to conceive that contradictions. We don't see that. And our thing is, we don't see life itself is full of contradictions. We don't see it. It's not that it is not there. It is there, but we don't see it. When we are not seeing this contradictions, and we believe life is like a preset pattern. What is a pattern? The pattern is railway track. Keeps flowing. Like a goods train, you know. Our life goes like a goods train. His life flows like a river. That's what a master said. You can't enter, into the river second time. Why? The water has flown already. That's gone. What is there now is new. It is new. It is new. He lives life from different frequency, different understanding. But we understand life from what? We understand life from the ordinary arithmetics. He lives in a higher arithmetics, higher mathematics, where Purnamada Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachate. He says. Now we say what? What Purna? What is Purna? What you get to your mind only goes to Modakas, that's all. Infinity we don't understand. Modaka only we understand. Yes, life is like that. When I love you, I can't digest that I can love another person also. Isn't it? Materially also you can't understand. The same thing at the emotional level also. When I love you, that capacity, that problem we have. The net connection is unstable, it says. So suddenly I may go freezing. It freezes. I don't know, it's a fault here or fault there. Right. There is a problem there. We live our life in one plane. He lives his life on another plane. Therefore, you can never understand what he is doing, why he is doing, what is happening in him. But the personality is so charming. It is so attractive. Don't fall for that attraction. That one of the greatest obstacle in the spiritual path is the charm of the teacher. He says, resist that. Resist the temptation in you to mix up the charm of the personality to the teaching. Segregate. We'll see more in the next class. Thank you.